What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences here on Sunday morning. It's July 27th, and we got a 13-game MLB slate, so a lot to talk about. Joined today, as last week, by Dan, filling in for Third and Schlong. Dan, how you doing on this Sunday morning?
I'm doing great, man. UFC main event, Rainier DeRitter came through for us. I saw you were on him as well. That was pretty great. I just thought the size would be way too much for Whitaker to deal with. But yeah, back again on a Sunday morning due to Schlong's vibrant social life. I think he did a bachelor party this weekend. So I'm here. I'm ready to get into this MLB slate. It's huge, man. I didn't realize it was 13 games when I agreed to fill in on the show, but here I am, ready to rock.
Yeah. Didn't check the schedule, Schlong. I believe a bachelor party. So, we didn't need hungover Schlong here on the show. We've got ready to go Dan instead. So
I think he's going to the races today too. So I don't know how it's going to be hungover with all the fumes, all the noise. I wish him luck. Wish him luck.
Yeah, I've done a few of these shows hungover in my day. Not this year, but in the past. So I certainly feel the Schlong pain there. Hopefully he's having a good Sunday sleeping in. But we'll cover for him today. Like I said, 13 games to talk about, so a lot to get into. Pretty, I think, top-heavy pitcher slate. We'll, of course, discuss that. Favorite stacks. Looks like there's some good spots to go to. And, these Sunday slates are kind of a lot like you mentioned. They're fast and furious, right? We've got 13 games all starting within 1 hour of each other. So I kind of like it on Sundays. You get the dopamine hit, the rush of gambling early, Dan. You don't have to wait between fights. All the fights go off pretty much at the same time. But without further ado, let's get into this slate. We do start off in the Bronx in New York for a premier pitching matchup here in Yankee Stadium between Zach Wheeler and Carlos Rodon. Those of you who missed it, maybe a few of you at least, Aaron Judge to the IL this weekend. So he's not in the lineup. Arguably the best hitter in baseball. Obviously, pretty significant bump for Wheeler to get Aaron Judge and the threat that he brings out of the lineup. It will be very good hitting conditions here in Yankee Stadium. Ball's going to be flying. So, no matter how good of a pitcher you are, either of these pitchers give up a well-struck fly ball, a good chance to get out of the yard today in Yankee Stadium. But nevertheless, I do think both these pitchers are good options. Rodon coming in at 10K, Wheeler at 10.8K. I prefer Wheeler between the two of them. I just think he's the better pitcher and arguably has the better matchup as well here, even on the road. So I do think Wheeler is one of the very top options on the slate, but I think it's close between a few guys. I do have Wheeler as my number 2 pitcher on the slate, maybe number 1. And then Rodon, I don't think I'll get there, but certainly don't hate the play by any means either. Mostly just the pitching in this game for me, Dan, despite the good hitting weather. What are you looking at between the Phillies and the Yankees here?
Yeah, Wheeler and Rodon, I'm uploading, now that we have pretty much all the lineups in, I'm just going to re-upload everything and we're going to crunch here. But in my initial crunches, I'm getting a ton of Wheeler and Rodon, but I'm not getting much of the bats. But like you said, it's the best hitting conditions on the slate. The Phillies are definitely more likely to go off. Yankees, looks like this lineup without Judge is pretty. I mean, they've been striking out a ton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Wheeler's been lights out. Like, he's been amazing to watch as a fan. So I like Wheeler a lot. I like Rodon a lot. I'm not getting any of the bats from the Yankees, Phillies. I'm getting some Schwarber, of course, Harper, Turner. I might bump the Phillies a little bit just because they've been mashing up in the Bronx. So I think Philly is a pretty good contrarian stack. They're going to be super low owned. But yeah, mostly Wheeler from this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm with Rance here too. This seems like a game where maybe you don't want the full 5-man stack, but you're home run chasing, right? It's a great park for home runs today, and even the best pitchers. Wheeler does certainly give up his fair share of home runs to left-handed bats. There's a lot of them in that Yankee lineup, almost all of them with power. So I don't mind picking those guys off if you are not, on any teams that you're not playing Wheeler. I do think most of those guys are in play. lefty, Schwarber and Harper on Rodon. I'm probably going to pass on that, but certainly understand for people playing more lineups than I do that why you would get to those guys. Turner, Castellanos also look pretty decent to me if we're trying to pick off a home run against Carlos Rodon. Let's get to the next game on the slate. Another pretty good pitching matchup here. We've got, of course, Paul Skeens going for the Pirates. Maybe not quite the production of a Zach Wheeler, but mostly that's due to a lack of wins playing for the Pirates for Paul Skeens. He's been really, really good all year. He gets a Diamondbacks team here that, they're selling at the trade deadline. It does look like Suarez, on his last few games here for the D-backs. He is in the lineup today, but this team is kind of, I don't know, quietly folded. Dan is probably too strong a word because it's only been a week or so, but ever since they basically traded Naylor and kind of announced that they're trading all these guys, there hasn't been a lot of life in this Diamondbacks team, especially offensively. That could just be a small sample size blip, but maybe something to it. I do think Paul Skeens in a pretty good spot here. I think he's a little bit safer than Wheeler is, but I do think Wheeler is the one with the higher strikeout upside in this matchup. But nevertheless, I certainly like Paul Skeens. Zach Gallen, I don't know what to do with. He's, I think, one of the harder pitchers to predict on a start-to-start basis. He's a pitcher who relies a lot on command and guile and kind of getting hitters to guess wrong, which I think is a really, high variance way to pitch and try to roster for DFS. But he does get an awesome matchup here in a good pitcher's park against the Pirates. 7,900 for Gallen. Maybe he has one of those huge games. I mean, he's had 2 rough ones in a row, but the prior 2 to that were both 30-plus fantasy point performances from Gallen. I think you can make the case for either of these pitchers. Not a whole lot of bats I'm personally looking at here. I do think O'Neal Cruz against Gallen makes some sense, but mostly pitching Gallen, Skeens. What are you looking at, Dan, between the Pirates and the D-backs here?
I'm getting like 20% Skeens. I'm not getting any Arizona bats against him at all. And like you said, O'Neal Cruz, that's the bat I'm getting the most of from this game. Now after that, I got Brian Reynolds, Sawinski, but not a whole lot. Pittsburgh is definitely, I've got them projected just as a team quite a bit higher than like projections in Saber have them right now. So I'll probably get to them as like little value pieces, but not a whole lot from this game. It's not, there are way better hitting environments on the slate today.
It's actually a pretty good one for Pittsburgh, but still better spots to go. It's certainly a pitcher's park in general. And I'm with you. I don't think this game, especially for most people watching, playing 1 to 3 to 5 to 10 lineups, probably not a game that you need to or even want to target, especially outside of the pitching. So keep it limited. Yeah, still tracking umpires, Trevor. That's a good question. But more and more so, I think this is a trend that we're doing at RPS. A lot of that's kind of baked into obviously the projections and the props, right? Like you can look at strikeout props, home run props, all that stuff, and certainly those are sharp markets that are absolutely influenced by who the umpires are. Still something I track, but I think most of that stuff is kind of baked into the other tools that we use. So don't want to double count with the umpires, but good question there. And certainly have the umpire assignments, all that stuff. But like I said, kind of baked in already. Let's get to Colorado and Baltimore, 2 of the worst teams in baseball here, despite my Orioles hat, which I guess I cursed them purchasing this hat prior to the season. It's been a rough ride for the Orioles and, of course, the paste-eating Rockies. We do get 2 very, very mediocre pitchers here. Lefty Austin Gomber going for Colorado. He hasn't had really a good start all year. Probably not going to get his first one here, even in a decent matchup. Certainly can look at some of those Orioles bats, but they put up 18 runs yesterday against the Rockies.
Yes.
Rockies are one of those teams. If you get going early, it can be a great day because they got nothing in the bullpen. They used a lot of guys yesterday, even busted out the position player pitching. I think Gomber off the table, and certainly these specifically, well, you can go to both sides, actually. I think most of Baltimore looks like pretty good plays against Austin Gomber and that Rockies pitching staff. And in Sagano, not a pitcher that I like in general, and he's certainly struggled recently. But I consider all pitchers against this Rockies team, given just the complete lack of punch in the lineup, and also, of course, how often they strike out. So I haven't decided if I'm going to get to Sagano on one of my 5 teams. Maybe. Curious where you ended up, Dan, between Sagano and Gomber, Rockies and Orioles here. 90 degrees in Baltimore. Ball should be flying here in Camden Yards. Talk to us, Dan. Rockies and Orioles.
Yeah, great hitting conditions. 2 pitchers with sky high xFIP. So, like you said, the ball should be flying. I'm usually pretty interested in. I'm usually pretty interested in the Rockies, like relative to the field, because they are just always so dirt cheap, and they've been hitting pretty well recently. But yeah, really weak pitchers in this game. Great hitting conditions. I love the Orioles. I think they're going to mash again today. Like you said, Colorado's bullpen totally depleted. They are, let me see, I think they're my second highest known team. Yeah, they're my second highest team behind the Braves, unfortunately. That didn't work out for us last week or at all this week, I don't think. So, but I think I'm still going back there. We'll get to that game.
Yeah, we'll get to the Braves game. I think I might let you suffer alone on the Braves screen. I get it against Zach Leiter. Yeah, individual bats. Lee Price got it. I think Moniak is the best one for the Rockies. Sagano has been crushed by lefty bats, and this is a park that you do want lefty power in general. With the left field wall obviously pushed back. Still a good park for lefty power rather. Yanquiel Fernandez has done almost nothing yet for the Rockies, but he is still 2,600 down there in the 6 hole. He's got some power and some speed. Tovar is cheap. Yeah, the Rockies, their biggest problem is they just swing and miss and strike out so often. But Sagano doesn't miss any bats, so I think you can go in that direction. You playing any Sagano, Dan? Doesn't sound like it.
No, so I'm running like some pretty big sets of like 250 just to start before I start paring down, and he's sneaking into like 4%. So I imagine if I'm playing like 50, he might get into 1 or 2, if that. But yeah, I'll just run one right. I'll run 50 real quick.
I don't know if I'll end up there. I don't hate it against the Rockies. Sabres got him projected as the 4th highest point per dollar pitcher on the slate. And at 5% owned. So if you think those numbers, yeah,
out of 50, I'm getting him in 5. So I'm getting 10% Sagano before I'm making any changes. But I don't have nearly as much Rodon or Wheeler at the top as I would like, just looking at this one. So probably going to boost those. We'll probably lose just a good portion of just about every other pitcher as a result. So yeah, but I could see Sagano like 5 to 10% if you want.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think being over on 5% makes sense. Some weather in the areas people are asking. I do think this game is going to play potentially with a slight delay, but we are mostly interested in the hitting here. In this game, I think almost certainly we'll get all 9 innings in. And maybe if you play Sagano and you get through 3 or 4 clean innings, maybe you're happy to get some rain and get out of there with your 10 to 15 fantasy points anyway. Yeah. So
I'm seeing possibility of a late delay. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not really worried about any of the weather on this.
Agreed. I'm pretty much just operating that all these games are going to play as of now. We'll adjust in the next hour if we need to, but it looks like pretty scattered storms over on the East Coast, which is what we're concerned about. And I do think these games are going to get in probably without much issue. This is one of the games, Colorado and Baltimore, that could potentially have a small delay during the game, but I don't think will be too disruptive, even if it does happen.
This bottom of the Rockies lineup is putrid. Now that I'm like really looking at it, I'm like Sagano might be a little interesting down there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think he makes some sense as a low owned option, low owned and cheap option. With his strikeout upset or prop I think is 5, which is really high for Sagano, obviously, against the Rockies. So I'm somewhat in there. He'll probably make his way onto one of my 5 DraftKings teams. Dodgers and Red Sox up next. This one in Fenway Park in Boston, of course. Another good day for hitting conditions, warm, humid, winds blowing out in Fenway. We often see high-scoring games when we get this weather. And we got two pitchers who I'm not a believer in. I've been kind of anti-Dustin May for most of the year. Just doesn't have quite the stuff he used to. It's been a struggle for him. He's been injured a little bit, as he often is. And then former Dodger, too. One current Dodger, Dustin May, former Dodger, Walker Buehler going for the Red Sox. Been a rough ride for him. He's been hit hard all season long. Really doesn't seem to have much to him. The Dodgers, of course, very familiar with Walker Buehler's game. I don't see this game going well for Walker Buehler. I think the Dodgers make a lot of sense. Man, I like the Red Sox on the other side too. Really top to bottom, both of these teams, I think, make a lot of sense. I think we see runs in Fenway Park, and I'll be certainly getting some hitters from this game, Dan. Assume you might be similar. What are you doing with Dodgers and Red Sox, Walker Buehler, Dustin May here?
Yeah, I'm getting none of the pitching here, and I'm getting a ton of the bats. So Dodgers and Red Sox are my third and fourth highest stack right here in these initial runs. Probably going to end up being pretty close to that when all is said and done. Getting a lot of Ohtani, Hernandez, Betts, obviously. Pages, is that how you say it? Pages?
Pages. Yep.
Pages, yeah. He's in play. And then Boston, of course, too. Like, I think Boston is still a pretty decent value unless they price them back up. Yeah, Boston's a great value today. I've got them projected really well. Saber has them projected really well. They've got some good power in there. Great hitting environment. I love the bats from this game.
Yeah, I do think Ohtani. Well, actually, yeah. I mean, really, most of that Dodgers lineup. I'll leave Mookie Betts to you. I never play Mookie Betts, but beyond him, Ohtani, Teoscar, Freeman, Pages, like you mentioned, even the bottom of the Dodgers lineup is cheap enough to get there. Dalton Rushing, again, another rookie that hasn't done a lot yet, has some potential. He's 2,600 in a good matchup against Buehler, and then the Red Sox. I mean, really their whole lineup, but specifically the lefties at the top. Anthony Duran looked good to me. Abreu, even down in the 7-hole, looks awesome. And yeah, I think we're going to see very good offensive game from both sides of the ball here between the Dodgers and the Red Sox. Looking forward to this one, and I'll be heavy on both these teams. Ohtani, do you have him as the top overall play, raw scoring on the slate, Dan? He's my number one bat over anybody. I'm guessing you might end up similar on Ohtani.
Yeah, I think I actually probably, yeah. Is that right? It looks like I have Sean Murphy with a higher. Oh, no, wait, that is actually a mistake. No, yeah. Ohtani is the highest raw score that I have here. He's my highest down back.
You got me excited if you had Sean Murphy over Ohtani, if you knyt something that I don't. But
No. There we go.
That may be your highest owned player is maybe what you were looking at with Sean Murphy. But I love Ohtani here, obviously, and
you know what it is sometimes I have like conflicting sources. We'll have somebody projected in, somebody else projected out. So then I'll just like manually edit their thing in my sheet. But then I update the projection and I end up with like 15 on Sean Murphy because I didn't like take away what I had. Yeah. So thank you for asking me that question so I can catch that.
Yeah, if you're down to your last spot and you got room for Ohtani or Murphy, I guess that would have to be on FanDuel. Go with Ohtani, I think would be the wise choice. But yeah, Murphy definitely going
for sure.
Next up, we've got Tampa Bay and Cincinnati. This one in Great American Small Park in Cincinnati, and another good day for hitting here. Some weather in the area. I do think this game will play just fine, so not concerned about that as of right now. Singer, I talk about this every time he pitches. He's got a very clear split where he just gets crushed by left-handed bats. Pretty effective still against righties is Brady Singer. I don't think he's really in play here at 7,700 himself. And same thing for Shane Baz, who he has some good outings and some talent. But to me, 9,500 for Baz is just a little bit too much of a price to pay in this park, even in a decent matchup. So I'm off the pitchers here. I wish the Rays have a little more left-handed power. I do think Jonathan Aranda, one of the better bet on one-offs on the slate. Can certainly play, of course, Diaz and Camporeale, who have been awesome, Josh Lowe. But when you get teams like this where there's one bat who I think stands out above all the others on the team, to me, that makes a good spot to play a one-off. So Aranda probably going to be in my core. I don't know if I'm going to get to a ton of the other Rays bats, but they're certainly in play against Singer, no question about it. And then Shane Baz, he's actually got some reverse splits, so maybe you can look at the righties here. I just don't see them that much on Cincinnati that really stands out to me. I do think Ellie De La Cruz is always one of the higher upside plays on any slate. But I don't have as many hitters in this game as I thought I was going to, and maybe even as I would like to. I'm guessing you have more of these guys than I do, which makes sense. Rays and Reds. Talk to us. What do you see here?
Yeah, I'm getting like none of the pitching. I'm getting a little bit of Baz, but like you said, 9,500 is pretty expensive for his strikeout upside on the slate. I agree with you. Caminero and Aranda, those are great one-offs. The Tampa Bay stack altogether is kind of expensive just for how they're projected and the home run upside. Like you've got New York, Atlanta priced directly below them, Philly below them, even Arizona. Like all those teams have more home run upside for the price than Tampa Bay does. So I think one-offs for Tampa Bay are the move. No Singer, a little bit of Baz, but I mean, it is a good hitting environment, but there's just so many ways to go that I can't see myself really prioritizing this in any way.
Yeah, just the matchups outside of Aranda for me just aren't perfect. And on a 13-game slate, you can obviously be kind of picky on what you include in your teams, in your pool. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this game kind of erupt for offense. And, hopefully that's not today, but wouldn't shock me whatsoever. Like I said, Jonathan Aranda, clearly my favorite play in this game. He'll be someone that I expect to take Brady Singer deep. We'll keep it moving. Toronto and Detroit are up next. This one in Comerica Park in Detroit. We've got two righties here. Max Scherzer going for Toronto. Been a little bit of a rough ride for Scherzer. Sound a little bit like a broken record for people who watch my shows, but lefty power against Scherzer has always played well and continues to play very, very well. And the Tigers got three pretty good lefties at the top of their lineup, at least against a guy like Scherzer, Colt Keith, Kerry Carpenter making his return from a short IL stint, and then Riley Green. I think all three of those guys are very, very interesting plays. I was on the Yankees lefties pretty heavily against Scherzer last time out. That came through. I think that's the game Bellinger went off for 40 fantasy points. Jazz hit one off of him. It's going to be a thing for Scherzer as long as he's in the league. Could be his last year, but lefties are going to continue to hit for a lot of power and very few strikeouts off of Max Scherzer. So I like these Tigers lefties quite a bit. Kerry Carpenter would be my favorite of the bunch at 3,900. And then Jack Flaherty, he's been solid this season. Nothing spectacular. I don't see using Flaherty or Scherzer. I know some people are going to use Scherzer. I'm off the Scherzer train. Not playing Flaherty here, but I don't think I'm getting to many Blue Jays either. I think there are better spots. So mostly just the Tigers lefties in this game for me, Dan. What about you? What do you see between the Blue Jays and the Tigers here?
Yeah, I'm getting like no bats from this game. Both Detroit and Toronto. They're pretty expensive for how they're projected today. So not much interest there. I've got like 12 to 15% of Flaherty, depending on the run. Like 5% of Scherzer. Not a whole lot from this game that interests me. Doesn't really, it looks like it's a pretty good hitting environment. So like you said, the Detroit left against Scherzer.
Are these numbers correct? I just pulled up the ownership numbers on the Detroit guys, and at least Saber has the entire lineup projected below 1%. That seems absurd to me for these lefties. This might be the best hitting weather that we've had all year in Tiger Stadium. 85, 90 degrees, winds blowing out.
Yeah. I'm just looking at projections just like across multiple like data sets, and they just really don't project well at all. So you've got Boston right below them. You've got, Atlanta and LA above them, just in terms of price of the stack. So they just project really poorly. So if you want to boost Detroit and just try to hammer lefts against Scherzer, I don't hate that at all. But probably mostly for me, I would try to have that in one-offs and maybe two-man stacks.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely our guy P. Lally is on the Max Scherzer train. Yeah, I'm in on these Detroit lefties. Honestly, I would even play them at higher ownership than they're going to be. So that means, to me at least, they're really good GPP plays. So give me Carpenter, Green, to some extent Keith, and I'll even go down to Meadows and Zach McKinstry. My belief against lefties, for lefties against Scherzer is high enough that, especially at low ownership, I'm going to be taking a shot on these Detroit lefties, no question about it, on a very, very nice day for hitting in Comerica. So, yeah, there we go. Good spot, I think, for the Detroit Tigers left-handed bats against Scherzer. I think they'll hit for some power there. We got to go. It's 13 games, so we'll go to Cleveland and Kansas City up next. Two young lefties here who have both pitched pretty well this season. Joey Cantillo going for the Guardians. They've stretched him out to 90, 95 pitches. He does seem like kind of a five and dive guy to me, though, and a little bit of a tough matchup strikeout-wise here against the Royals. So Cantillo didn't make the cut. I do think Cameron is a little bit more interesting. He's had 4 good starts in a row. He is a true full-go starter. I mean, he's been averaging over 100 pitches per start over the last 3 starts and gets a really uninspiring, strikeout heavy for the most part Guardians team in Kauffman Stadium at home here. So Cameron, I think, is interesting. Cantillo didn't make the cut for me, and I don't see a lot of bats here that I want to play. They all seem appropriately priced. India, 3K leading off with the platoon. I think he's a pretty good play, but maybe not the most upside. Salvador Perez and Witt are fine. Jose Ramirez, always a good contrarian one-off. But for the most part, not going to have a ton of this game. Noah Cameron could make the cut for me on a team or two. Dan, what do you see? Cleveland and KC?
I agree with you. I've got some interest in Cameron as well, but for the most part, outside of Salvi, Witt, India, I'm getting no bats from this game. And I usually have Kansas City projected quite a bit higher than most places, unfortunately, but not today.
You might need to fix that. Tweak something in the projections.
I have been. I mean, I claw them back once I start actually building quite a bit, but no need to do that today, which should really tell you something.
Yeah,
not in a good spot today.
Seeing some questions, I did just pull up the radar for New York. I do think there's potential for the Yankees and Phillies to start in a delay. I don't know if it impacts things, but it would make sense. Both teams obviously don't want to lose Wheeler and Rodon after an inning or two. But I don't see much rain coming outside of a pretty light rain shower. So even if it does start in delay, I do think Yankees and Phillies will be okay. And I do think they can probably just play through the little bit of rain that's coming. So I did want to address that. It seems like people might be a little more concerned about the rain than we are currently, Dan, but we'll keep an eye on it. And of course, obviously we'll be in Discord answering final calls on that stuff. But yeah, that's KC. Did you hear I didn't hear your conclusion on Cameron. You get there at all?
Yeah, I'm getting 15% of Cameron. So
yeah, that makes sense to me. He does seem like a pretty strong play. What about ownership? Are people, around there, 10 to 15% looks like the field on Cameron too. Makes sense to me. We'll keep it moving to the A's and the Astros. This one in Houston. We've got JT Ginn going for the A's. His strikeout prop, I was kind of looking at him earlier just against a super right-handed heavy Astros lineup. And I was kind of concerned about the pitch count. Through 58 pitches last time out. He does have a couple games back in April where he threw 96, 89 pitches. I'm not sure he's a complete full go here, but his strikeout prop is pretty nice against the Astros. I think it's 5 is juiced to the over. So 5,500 for JT Ginn, who's been really effective against righty hitters, which is kind of the reason I was looking at him to begin with. I do think he's an interesting play if you've got, an expensive stack that you're trying to get in, if you're trying to get Ohtani with some other studs. I mean, there are plenty of big bats in big spots in this on the slate. So JT Ginn, I think, is an okay play at 5,500. I know our friends at Sabre, I believe, have him as projected as the highest point per dollar pitcher on the whole slate, going to be around 5%. So I got some interest there. I don't know if you're going to get more than 5 innings, but that could be enough against this team at that price point. And then Colton Gordon's been pretty solid for the Astros too. Again, another pitcher where you're probably only getting 5 or 6 innings max out of him. But there are a lot of strikeouts to be had against this A's team. No Nick Kurtz in the lineup, lefty, so a little bit of a watered-down lineup as well. And I think you could make a case for 7,200 Colton Gordon. I do like the A's right-handed power. Specifically, that's Rooker and Langoliers batting 3-4 that I think are good plays against Gordon. And then the few lefties that the Astros have in there, Taylor, Trammell, Caratini, Singleton, all make some sense as well. But could see playing this game either way. What are you doing, Dan, with A's and Astros?
I'm really only getting pitching here and the A's righties that you mentioned. So
Yeah.
I've got like 10% Gordon, 10% Ginn, or Gin, whichever. We got Jim projected a little bit better than Saber, so I'll probably get a little bit more of him once I start running Sims. And yeah, I've got Houston projected way lower than Saber right now, so I'm going to get none of that. Yeah, a little bit of the pitching from this game, but mostly going to be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, makes sense. And like I said, I'm with you on JT Ginn. I do think, he's not, if you're people hand building out there, he's not the first guy in, right? I'm not building around him, but if you've got the stack that you want and you need that savings at 5,500, no problem at all.
You do a lot with 5,500. You can do a lot with a $5,500.
Exactly. He does get you a lot. And especially on a slate where we like, the expensive pitching in general, he makes for a good pairing with Skeens or Wheeler if you want to go in that direction. So I will have JT Ginn probably on one of my 5 DraftKings teams today. And then, we're on the same page hitting wise. Rooker or Langoliers, specifically Rooker, I think it makes for pretty good home run call on this slate. Let's go to Minneapolis for the Nationals and the Twins. Going to be somewhat of a bullpen game for the Twins. Cole Sands will take the mound to start, I would expect. Probably 2 or 3 innings out of Cole Sands, after which the Twins will turn it to the bullpen. They do have a pretty decent bullpen, but I think still maybe kind of a sneaky good spot for this left-handed heavy Nationals team. Abrams, James Wood, of course, at the top of the lineup, always high upside plays, and you almost always get them low owned too. So I do play those guys a lot. Jake Irvin going for the Nationals here. He's a splits guy, gets hit hard, very hard by lefty bats. Twins have some decent ones in the lineup. Larnach leading off. Castro is relatively cheap second. And then the guy I really like, pinch hit risk for sure, but Cody Clemens smashes right-handed pitching. I imagine his home run prop looks pretty good today. Can play him at first or second. I think he's the best play overall on the Twins. Like his chances to take Jake Irvin deep on a hot, humid day in Minneapolis. Ball should be flying here as well. What about you, Dan? What do you see Twins and Nationals?
Yeah, I'm getting no pitching from this game. Looks like a pretty good hitting environment. I mean, for the Twins especially, they're projected to hit like 1.5 home runs as a team, which is really strong on this slate.
Terrible bullpen behind Jake Irvin for the Nationals as well. Helps a lot.
Yeah, now that I fixed my projections and I've updated things, I'm actually getting Minnesota as like my 3rd highest owned stack. So I really like Minnesota today. Like you said, with Jake Irvin, like I think they're just going to mash him, and Cody Clemens, like you said, Matt Wallner, looks like Brooks Lee, 2,900 is a really good value in that lineup. Castro. Yeah, I like the Twins a lot today.
Yeah, they look good to me too. And pretty cheap. Can certainly fit them with the good pitching. So yeah, I'm in on the Twins here. Any Nationals bats for you?
Very few. I'm getting like 3% of Josh Bell and James Wood, and a little bit of CJ Abrams, but that's it.
Yeah, makes sense. And also, I think makes sense to my original point that they do look like pretty decent contrarian plays for people looking to go in that direction. Let's go to Chicago at Guaranteed Rate Field. This one, of course, at the White Sox Stadium, not Wrigley Field. Bullpen game to some extent for the White Sox. I'm going to start with Grant Taylor and then go to Sean Burke, I guess, who has been a starter for them most of the season. Really not very good. And yeah, I do think this Cubs team, another team that's very expensive if you want to stack them, but definitely has a lot of upside against, it's tough to go with the bullpen game when your bullpen's one of the worst in baseball. So it looks like a good spot for the Cubs. You do got to pay for them. We've talked about some cheaper pitchers that we like, so you can afford them if you want to. One of the teams that maybe gets you on a guy like JT Ginn if you're trying to get this top of the Cubs lineup, which I do think for the most part is what you want. That top four for the Cubs: Bush, Tucker, Suzuki, PCA, all over 5K. So you're paying for him, but I do think has a ton of upside, of course. And then Ben Brown. I've liked Ben Brown quite a few times this year. He's mostly disappointed me. The stuff is there for him, but he's just kind of a two-pitch pitcher, and it just seems to fall apart for him in the fourth, fifth, sixth inning most of the time. Does get a good matchup here, of course, against the White Sox. So I'm a little tempted to try Ben Brown again, but mostly he's made me regret my faith in him. So I think I'm going elsewhere for the most part, but curious where you ended up, Dan, on Ben Brown. I guess Grant Taylor, you're not going to play him. And then what are you doing with the Cubs bats? I think they're a good contrarian option like I do. What'd you end up with Cubs and White Sox here?
Okay, so I'm getting like 6% Ben Brown, which I don't love, but I'll probably just go with it anyway.
I think that's fine.
The Cubs bats are just really hard to fit. They obviously have home run upside, but you've got New York, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Philly, all these teams with comparable home run upside, and in some cases, in the case of New York and Atlanta, more home run upside for way cheaper. There's like a pretty big gap between Chicago and Tampa Bay as far as most expensive teams goes. So I understand there's obviously home run upside, but for the price, it's just really tough. And I'm kind of surprised that I'm not getting more White Sox bats. I understand that they are terrible, but this is a really good hitting environment. And like you said, Ben Brown, he gives up fly balls quite a bit. So I like some of the White Sox bats. I'll probably be looking to them as more of a value stack. I'm trying to see which value stack. Looks like I'm getting more Pittsburgh at the moment than Chicago, which talked about last week. I feel like Pittsburgh and Chicago have been rating out well for me as value stacks lately. So I don't mind going there, but I'm really not getting much of it right now. So wouldn't be surprised to see them pretty much completely unowned in a really great hitting environment.
Yeah. Low-owned Cubs against Grant Taylor, Sean Burke, and the White Sox in a good park to hit, right? It's going to be hot, humid in right field. Yeah, good home run park today. I think it might be with Mr. Kreitzen here. I think low ownership Cubs make some sense, even if they are expensive. They're just kind of hard to fit on this slate for the reasons we've discussed. But certainly, I think as much upside as anybody, wouldn't be surprised to see the Cubs put up a big number on the White Sox this afternoon. We will move to the Miami Marlins and Milwaukee Brewers. This one in Milwaukee. Roof will be closed, I believe. We'll see two good pitchers here. Brandon Woodruff going for the Brewers. He's been nothing short of lights out since returning from injury. Has only gotten up to 81 pitches. So he threw 70 his first start back on July 6th, then 81. And then he was absolutely cruising against the Mariners. Got pulled, I believe, with a cramp. But yeah, I mean, he looked like he was maybe going to go a full 9-inning complete game shutout in that one. I would assume he's good to go here. Makes you a little concerned just that he hasn't been stretched beyond that many pitches, that he's coming off a little being pulled early. But matchup is good, pretty good here against the Marlins, who do have better offense than people expected. I've been on the Agustin Ramirez and Kyle Stowers train for a long time now. Both those guys regularly coming through with power. Probably not on those guys today, but they do give me at least a little hesitancy on Woodruff at 10.5K. And then Yuri Perez, a highly talented arm. Probably going to get around 90 pitches from him. Maybe not the best matchup in the world strikeout-wise against the Brewers, but I do think Perez could be a good contrarian play at 8K, given the talent that he brings to the table. Curious where you ended up on these guys, and then what are you doing with Woodruff compared to guys like Skeens and Wheeler? He just seems much riskier to me at pretty much the same price point, but I do expect him to pitch well while he's in there. I'm just a little concerned about how deep he's going to go into this game. Dan, what do you see between the Brewers and the Marlins here?
Yeah, so of the top 4 pitchers, like Skeens, Wheeler, Woodruff, Rodon, I've got Woodruff the least, but I've got him about 16% right now. And then Yuri, I've got about 12%. He's just I've got it projected a bit better than Saber as well. And I'm still just kind of getting, well, I guess that's good for more than double the field. He's only projecting to be like 5%. So I don't mind him as a little bit of a contrarian pitching play. And then the bats, like you mentioned, Agustin Ramirez, obviously. We've got some Jesus Sanchez, Stowers. Other than that, though, I've got some. Where am I? Where is he? Oh, yeah, William Contreras. But not a whole lot. Not a whole lot of bats from this game. More pitching.
Yeah. I'm with you there for the most part. I'm not really on the bats here.
Another one of the weaker hitting environments on the slate.
Yeah. Not playing cash games today. I do think Skeens and Wheeler probably the best cash game pairing. For sure, I would have Wheeler in there and maybe Skeens as well. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. I think there are enough cheap hitters on the slate that you can play to fit those two guys. But yeah, we're on the same page. No real interest in the bats here. Stowers, I think, would be the best contrarian play if you're trying to get high upside and low ownership into your lineup in this game. 2 more games to talk about. Cruising right along here. We do go to St. Louis. We've seen hot, humid weather in this park, and it'll be the same today on Sunday afternoon. Pretty much zero interest in either of these pitchers. Stephen Kolek going for the Padres, Michael McGreevy for the Cardinals. They're not the worst pitchers in the world, but not particularly cheap, and I think you can do better than both guys on this slate. So I'm off the pitching here. Not crazy about the bats. I think Donovan, Burleson makes some sense. And maybe you go with a full Padres stack against McGreevy. I think does make some sense as well in what will be very nice hitting conditions in Busch Stadium. But I'm not going to end up with a whole lot from this one, Dan. What about you? What do you see, Padres and Cardinals?
I'm getting pretty much nothing. I'm getting like some Contreras, Burleson, Herrera, a little bit of Machado. But other than that, I got like no bats, and I'm not interested in these pitchers at all. Honestly, like I would probably even be comfortable just hitting X on this game and moving on. I won't, but I could.
Yeah, I'm with you there. These pitchers, two of the first that I cut from the main slate pool, and yeah, maybe some scattered bats, but this is a game. I'm totally with you. Where if you want to make this a 12-game slate, which it's a giant slate, makes sense. Don't think you need to play much from the Cardinals and the Padres. Probably fairly safe to avoid that game for the most part, or perhaps even entirely. Last game on the slate, we'll do pitching stacks, home run calls after we talk about the Braves and the Rangers in Texas. We got Jack Leiter going for the Rangers here. I've used him in his last 2 starts. He's generally come through in those, up to 95 pitches in his last one. We know the strikeout upside is decent for him, but he is also extremely blow-up prone. It didn't happen in his last 2 starts, but you saw with the 4 walks given up in each of those. That's playing with fire when you start putting guys on base via the walk. And yeah, the Braves have Obviously, in theory, a good lineup, even if they've had a disappointing season overall. But it sounds like you're going back to the well with the Braves hitters, so I'll let you talk about them. Makes sense to me against Jack Leiter. And then Bryce Elder, another pitcher that I've never believed in. Been a rough ride for him. I do think the two lefty bats, specifically at the top of the lineup for the Rangers, Josh Smith and especially Corey Seager, make a ton of sense. Seager, as hot as anybody right now, and Elder really struggles against left-handed bats. So I love Corey Seager here. You can go with the whole Rangers stack if you want to, but I do think it's Smith and Seager that make the most sense. And they do have Jock Peterson in the lineup. I believe his first game back after a long absence. Hasn't played since May 24th. But he is flat, minimum salary, and does crush righties. So I think he's an interesting play at 2K against Elder. Talk to us, Braves lover Dan. Go ahead and sing the praises of this disappointing Atlanta Braves team.
Well, I'm actually super relieved because I've been running stuff the whole show, and now they've dropped down to 5th on my stack. So
all right, you got a chance today. Then get the Braves out there.
I've got Boston, Baltimore, Minnesota, LA, and then Atlanta and Texas. So got a fair amount of interest in the bats still. I've got nothing from pitching here. I've got 2% of Jack Leiter that I expect gets cut down to 0 when I start really zeroing in. Usual suspects for the Braves: Austin Riley, Acuna, Olsen, Profar, and then, like you mentioned, for Texas, you got Josh Smith and Seager, obviously, and I would throw Adolis and Semien in there as well. So, good amount of interest. I think it's pretty good. Looks like good hitting conditions. They're up there. They're up there. It's like probably 6 or 7. So, that's about where I have them. They're up near the top, but they fall behind some of the better hitting environments on the slate today.
P. Lally getting sucked into the two good Michael Harris games. Happened back to back. Raise his hands. And we'll see with Michael Harris. He's burned me enough times that I'll probably.
The Braves can still have a good game. They can do it. They haven't done it that much, but they can do it.
They look good on paper to me, but they often do, and usually it doesn't pan out. But I do get it with the Braves.
I'll tell you what, man, the field is absolutely sick of it because nobody is they're not projecting to be owned. Like everybody, all these bats. I think the highest bat for the Braves is like 5%, not even. So you're getting them for nothing.
13 game slate. Obviously, ownership gets diluted a little bit, but makes sense for me with the Braves. I'm not hating on it too much. Just I'll probably end up going elsewhere myself. And then, like I mentioned, really, really like Seager specifically. I think one of the better plays on the slate overall. That is all 13 games. Let's go back over some of our favorite plays on the slate. Dan, we'll start at pitching. What's your overall favorite combination for pitchers? Your two guys you want to roll with on DraftKings.
Let's see what I got here for combos. I've got looks like a lot of Wheeler and Rodon, Wheeler Woodruff, and then if you want to do kind of like a high-low type of thing with the pitching, I've got Wheeler Perez even further down than Wheeler Gordon. You got a couple options there, but I guess I'm going double high in my pitching for most of these lineups.
Yeah, it makes sense. I do have Wheeler as the number one option, so he'll be one of the guys for me. And then I've got some faith in. I'll definitely combine Wheeler with some Skeens. I do like Cameron a little bit, but I do like for the savings JT Ginn down there at 5,500. I think he gives us 10 to 15 fantasy points and provides a lot of salary relief to get some of these bigger bats into the lineup. So I'll go Wheeler, JT Ginn for my selection. Stack, Stan, give us 3 teams you're looking to stack it up with today.
All right, who we got? Boston, Baltimore, and Minnesota.
All right, I like those calls. I got to join you on Boston for sure. I think they're one of the better ways to go. Give me the Cubs as a contrarian stack. And then, of course, the Tigers lefties, Keith Carpenter, Riley Green in particular, look really good to me. and super low owned as a contrarian stack against Max Scherzer. Finally, give us a home run call. Who's going deep? And then we'll get on out of here and get to Discord, answer questions, get our lineups in.
All right, I think I went a little chalky last week, so I'm going to go a little less chalky with the home run call. I'm going to go with Matt Wallner.
Matt Wallner, I like it. For the Twins, I do expect power out of them in the 6 hole. And I'm going to stick with my Tigers. They seem like my biggest stand overall on the day. Give me Mr. Carpenter in the 3 hole against Max Scherzer going deep in Comerica Park. All right, that'll do it for this show. Appreciate you all watching. We'll be back for Game Log Mondays. Me, JT, and Big T tomorrow afternoon. Always a fun show. We'll see a bunch of you there. Good luck in your lineups. Enjoy your Sunday. Thanks for Dan for filling in. And until tomorrow, he's Dan. I'm DC. We're out of here.